Welcome to Sleepy Science Hub. I'm so glad you've joined me tonight for this gentle journey into one of Earth's most fascinating and peaceful conversations, the quiet ways our planet communicates with itself through the softest whispers and most delicate movements. As you settle in, let me know where in the world and at what time you're watching. Whether you're nestled comfortably in your favorite spot as evening settles around you, or perhaps finding a quiet moment in the early hours of morning, you've discovered the perfect time to listen to the Earth's gentle voice together. Now, get comfortable. Let your body sink into whatever surface supports you. Allow your shoulders to drop and release any tension they've been carrying, and take a slow, deep breath. Feel the solid ground beneath you, the reliable foundation that has been quietly supporting you your entire life. Tonight, we're going to discover that this seemingly still and silent foundation is actually alive with the gentlest movements, the softest vibrations, and the most peaceful communications as our planet continuously talks to itself in whispers so quiet we rarely notice them. Take another gentle breath and let's begin. Imagine yourself sitting in a comfortable chair in a quiet room, feeling the solid floor beneath your feet and the stable walls around you. Everything appears perfectly still, completely motionless, as if the entire world has paused in peaceful silence. But beneath this apparent stillness lies one of nature's most beautiful secrets. The Earth is never truly still. Right now, as you rest in this moment of calm, the ground beneath you is engaged in the gentlest of dances, moving and communicating in ways so subtle that they exist just beyond the threshold of human perception. The Earth's crust, that thin shell of rock that forms the surface of our planet, is like the skin of a living being, constantly adjusting, constantly responding to the slow, deep breathing of the planet beneath. As you sit here in seeming stillness, the ground under your feet is actually moving ever so slightly, rising and falling in rhythms so gentle they make the movement of sleeping breath seem dramatic by comparison. These movements are so small, they're measured in fractions of millimeters. So gradual, they unfold over minutes and hours, yet they represent the Earth's constant, peaceful conversation with itself. Place your hand gently on your chest and feel the rise and fall of your breathing. The rhythm is steady, calming, life-sustaining. The Earth has its own version of this gentle breathing, a constant pulse of tiny movements as rock layers settle, as temperature changes cause minute expansions and contractions, as the weight of the atmosphere presses down with subtle variations. These movements are happening right now, beneath you, around you, as natural and peaceful as your own heartbeat. Scientists have instruments so sensitive they can detect when a person walks past their building, when traffic moves on a distant highway, when waves crash against shores hundreds of miles away. These same instruments reveal that the Earth is in constant, gentle motion. Not the dramatic, sudden movements that capture headlines, but the quiet, persistent communications that represent the planet's normal, healthy state. It's like listening to a conversation in a library, where the most important communications happen in whispers so soft that only the most attentive listeners can hear them. The ground beneath your feet is supported by layers of rock that stretch down for miles, each layer resting on the one below it like blankets stacked on a bed. As you might adjust your position slightly while resting, these rock layers make tiny adjustments too. The pressure from above causes them to settle by microscopic amounts. Changes in temperature, perhaps the cooling of evening or the warming of morning sun, cause these rocks to expand or contract by distances smaller than the width of a human hair. Yet these tiny movements, multiplied across vast areas, create the Earth's gentle pulse. Right now, as you breathe in and out, the weight of the atmosphere above you changes slightly with weather patterns hundreds of miles away. A high-pressure system moving across a distant continent affects the pressure pressing down on the Earth's surface where you sit. The rock layers beneath you respond to these changes like a careful listener responding to a whispered conversation, adjusting their position by amounts so small that only the most sensitive instruments can detect them. In the walls around you, in the foundation of the building, in the bedrock far beneath, countless tiny stress adjustments are happening as materials respond to temperature changes, moisture variations, and the endless patient working of time itself. A wooden beam expands slightly as humidity increases. A concrete foundation settles by a microscopic amount as the soil beneath it adjusts to seasonal moisture changes. Metal fixtures contract slightly as evening temperatures cool. All of these movements are part of the Earth's quiet conversation, each tiny adjustment sending ripples of barely perceptible vibration through the solid matter around you. The Earth's pulse is not random, but follows patterns as regular and soothing as ocean waves. The heating and cooling cycle of day and night creates thermal expansions and contractions that follow the rhythm of the sun. The gravitational pull of the moon causes tiny tidal effects not just in the oceans, but in the solid rock of the Earth's crust, making the ground beneath you rise and fall by distances measured in centimeters over the course of each day. These movements are so gradual, so gentle, that they exist in the same realm as the imperceptible growth of plants or the patient working of erosion. Think of the last time you rested on a wooden dock by a calm lake. Even when the water appeared perfectly still, you could feel the gentlest movement as the dock responded to tiny waves so small they were barely visible. The Earth's crust is like that dock, resting on something fluid and responsive, adjusting constantly to forces so subtle they require special attention to notice. The rock layers beneath you float on partially molten material deep in the Earth, and just as the dock rises and falls with microscopic water movements, the solid ground adjusts to currents and pressures in the material below. These deep currents move with the patience of geological time, flowing like thick honey, carrying heat from the Earth's interior toward the surface in patterns that unfold over millions of years. Yet even these incredibly slow movements create tiny, immediate effects at the surface. Pressure changes so small, they're like feeling someone's pulse through many layers of blankets, but detectable to instruments that can sense the Earth's gentle heartbeat. The building you're in right now is participating in this quiet conversation. As the sun sets and temperatures drop, the materials around you are contracting by microscopic amounts. The metal in the framework, the concrete in the foundation, the wood in the structure, all of these materials are adjusting to the changing conditions, creating tiny sounds too quiet for your ears, but loud enough for sensitive microphones to detect. It's like listening to the building settling into sleep. Each small sound a sign of materials finding their comfortable positions for the night. Your own body is part of this conversation too. As you shift your weight slightly, as your heart beats, as you breathe in and out, you're creating tiny pressure changes and vibrations that sensitive instruments could detect. You're adding your voice to the Earth's whispered conversation, your movements becoming part of the gentle pulse that connects all solid matter on our planet. The rhythm of your breathing matches the patient rhythms of the Earth itself, both sustained by forces much larger than what's immediately visible, both part of systems that maintain themselves through constant, gentle adjustments. In cities around the world, networks of seismometers, incredibly sensitive instruments designed to listen to the Earth's communications, detect vibrations so small they seem impossible. These instruments can sense when a large truck passes several blocks away, when wind causes a nearby tree to sway, when rain falls with unusual intensity. They reveal that the apparently solid world around us is actually alive with movement, constantly adjusting, constantly responding to changes both local and distant. The sensors show patterns that look like the gentlest breathing. During the day, when human activity creates more vibrations, the readings show a busy but peaceful background of tiny movements, footsteps, traffic, construction, the general hum of civilization adding its voice to the Earth's conversation. At night, when human activity quiets, the instruments reveal the Earth's own natural pulse more clearly, like being able to hear someone's heartbeat only when the room becomes very quiet. These patterns change with the seasons too. In winter, when the ground freezes and contracts, the vibration patterns shift. In spring, when ice melts and soils expand with moisture, the readings change again. During storms, When atmospheric pressure drops and wind creates new stresses on buildings and trees, the Earth's pulse adjusts to accommodate these changes. It's like watching a conversation where the participants gently adjust their tone and rhythm based on their surroundings, always maintaining the communication, but adapting to conditions. The really remarkable thing about the Earth's pulse is how stable it is despite all these tiny variations. Like your own heartbeat, which adjusts to your activities and emotions, but maintains its essential rhythm. The Earth's gentle movements fluctuate slightly, but continue their patient pattern. This stability is what allows life to thrive on our planet's surface. We live on a foundation that's dynamic enough to adjust to changes, but stable enough to provide the reliable base that complex ecosystems require. Right now, as you rest in this moment of awareness, you're feeling the Earth's pulse through every point of contact between your body and the world around you. The chair or bed supporting you is transmitting the gentlest vibrations from the floor beneath. The floor is connected to the foundation, which rests on soil and rock that extend down into the Earth's living crust. You're in direct contact with a communication network that spans the entire planet, feeling the Earth's heartbeat through every surface that touches you. This connection to the Earth's pulse has existed throughout human history, though we've rarely been conscious of it. The stone foundations of ancient buildings, the wooden floors of old houses, the earth floors of traditional dwellings, all of these surfaces have always carried the Earth's gentle vibrations to the people who lived above them. Indigenous cultures often spoke of feeling the Earth's voice through their feet, of sensing changes in the land through subtle vibrations that preceded larger changes. Modern science has given us instruments that can detect these vibrations, but the conversation has been going on for as long as the Earth has existed. The Earth's pulse connects you not just to the rock beneath, but to the entire planet. The tiny movements you're experiencing are related to forces operating on every scale imaginable, from the molecular vibrations in the materials around you to the great tectonic processes that shape continents. You're feeling echoes of the planet's rotation, responses to gravitational forces from the moon and sun, adjustments to atmospheric pressure systems that span hemispheres. In this moment of stillness, you're part of a conversation that includes the entire Earth. As you continue to rest here, breathing slowly and feeling the solid support beneath you, you can begin to sense this gentle pulse not as something separate from your peace, but as part of it. The Earth's quiet breathing matches your own relaxed breathing. The planet's patient adjustments mirror your own body's constant small movements as you settle into comfort. You and the Earth are both participants in the same peaceful rhythm, both engaged in the gentle communications that maintain stability and health. The vibrations are so small, so gentle, that they exist in the same realm as meditation and deep relaxation. Feeling the Earth's pulse requires the same kind of quiet attention that you bring to sensing your own heartbeat or breathing. It's not about dramatic movements that demand attention, but about subtle harmonies that reveal themselves only when you're relaxed enough and still enough to listen. In this state of peaceful awareness, the boundary between your own gentle movements and the Earth's gentle movements begins to blur, creating a sense of connection and rhythm that's deeply restoring. As you rest in this growing awareness of the Earth's gentle pulse, you begin to understand that what you're feeling is just the surface expression of much deeper conversations happening within the planet itself. Deep beneath your feet, in the ancient rock formations that form the foundation of continents, there are whispers so quiet and communications so patient that they unfold over time frames that dwarf human experience. These are the conversations between different layers of rock, between areas of the Earth's crust that are slowly, peacefully adjusting to the gradual changes that define geological time. Imagine the rock beneath you as a vast library, its layers like pages in an enormous book that tells the story of Earth's patient history. Each layer was formed over thousands or millions of years, and now they rest upon each other in a stack that can extend for miles into the Earth's interior. Just as pages in a book might settle slightly when the book is moved or when temperature changes cause the paper to expand or contract, these rock layers are constantly making the tiniest adjustments as they respond to changes in pressure, temperature, and the slow movements of the Earth's interior. The whispers in the rock begin with something as simple as the weight of overlying layers. Consider a sheet of rock buried a mile beneath the surface, supporting the enormous weight of all the stone above it. This deep layer experiences pressure that's difficult to imagine, thousands of pounds pressing down on every square inch. Yet rather than being crushed by this pressure, the rock has learned to whisper back, to make microscopic adjustments that distribute the weight evenly and maintain stability. These adjustments happen grain by grain, crystal by crystal, as the rock's structure reorganizes itself in response to the forces acting upon it. The temperature deep in the Earth changes with a patience that matches the rock's own timescale. As you descend into the planet's interior, the temperature increases gradually, not dramatically, but with the steady persistence of seasons changing or tides turning. This warming and cooling, happening over vast periods, causes the rock to expand and contract by minute amounts. A layer of granite a mile thick might expand by just a few inches as it warms over thousands of years. But this tiny change creates stresses and adjustments that ripple through the surrounding rock layers like whispers pass from one person to another in a long chain of communication. These thermal whispers are so gentle that they exist in the same realm as the imperceptible growth of mountains or the patient wearing away of valleys. The rock layers respond to temperature changes by adjusting their crystal structure, by allowing microscopic spaces between mineral grains to open or close slightly, by permitting the slow migration of mineral solutions through tiny pores and fractures. These processes happen so slowly that even if you could observe them directly, they would appear as still as watching paint dry or grass grow. Yet they represent active communication as the rock adapts to its changing environment. The mineral crystals within the rock are participants in these whispered conversations. Each crystal is like a tiny building, its atomic structure arranged in precise patterns that determine its strength, its flexibility, and its response to pressure and temperature. When stress builds slowly in the rock, perhaps from the gradual warming of the Earth's interior or the patient accumulation of weight from new layers above, these crystals begin to adjust their internal arrangements. Some crystals may grow slightly, adding new layers of atoms in response to changing chemical conditions. Others may alter their shape minutely, accommodating new stresses by distributing them more evenly throughout their structure. This crystal-level conversation happens through processes so slow and gentle they're more like meditation than action. Atoms migrate from areas of high stress to areas of lower stress, following pathways through the crystal structure that exist on scales smaller than the wavelength of light. Chemical bonds adjust their angles by fractions of degrees, redistributing forces throughout the mineral grain. Water molecules and dissolved minerals move through microscopic spaces in the rock, carrying information about pressure and temperature conditions from one location to another like molecular messengers in the rock's communication network. The boundaries between different rock layers become zones of particularly active whispering. Where a layer of hard granite meets a layer of softer shale, the two different rock types must negotiate how to respond to the same applied stresses. The granite, being harder and more brittle, might accommodate stress by developing tiny, microscopic fractures that allow it to adjust its shape slightly. The shale, being softer and more flexible, might respond by flowing almost imperceptibly, like honey that's been cooled until it barely moves but retains some capacity for gradual deformation. These negotiations between different rock types create some of the most subtle and beautiful communications in the Earth's whispered conversations. The harder rock learns to bend slightly more than its nature would normally allow, while the softer rock accepts slightly more stress than it would prefer to carry. Through countless microscopic adjustments, the two layers find ways to accommodate the same forces while maintaining their essential characters, a process of compromise and adaptation that's been refined over millions of years of gentle interaction. Water plays a crucial role in the rock's whispered conversations, acting as both a messenger and a mediator in the slow communications between different parts of the Earth's crust. Groundwater, moving through tiny spaces in the rock with the patience of geological time, carries dissolved minerals from areas where they're being slowly released to areas where they can be incorporated into new crystal structures. This migration of mineral solutions allows different parts of the rock formation to share resources and information, creating a communication network that extends across vast distances underground. The movement of this underground water is so slow, it makes the flow of honey seem rapid by comparison. In some deep rock formations, water may take thousands of years to travel just a few miles, moving through pore spaces and microscopic fractures in a journey so gradual it exists outside normal human concepts of motion. Yet this patient movement allows for chemical communications between distant parts of the rock formation, enabling different areas to adjust their mineral composition and internal structure in response to changing conditions throughout the region. These underground conversations are influenced by cycles so vast they connect the rock's current whispers to communications that began millions of years ago. The Ice Ages, for example, created cyclical patterns of loading and unloading as enormous ice sheets formed and melted across continents. During periods of glaciation, the weight of ice miles thick pressed down on the underlying rock, creating stresses that the rock accommodated through tiny adjustments throughout its structure. When the ice melted, the removal of this enormous weight allowed the rock to slowly expand back toward its original configuration, a process called isostatic rebound that continues today, thousands of years after the ice disappeared. The rock's memory of these ancient ice loads exists in its current structure and continues to influence its whispered conversations. Areas that were once covered by glacial ice are still slowly rising as the rock adjusts to the removal of that weight, creating ongoing patterns of stress and accommodation that affect how the rock responds to current forces. This geological memory means that today's whispers in the rock are influenced by conversations that began during the last ice age, creating a continuity of communication that spans tens of thousands of years. The seasonal patterns you experience at the surface also contribute to the rock's deep conversations, though the rock's responses are so filtered and delayed that they bear little resemblance to the dramatic temperature swings of surface weather. The annual cycle of heating and cooling penetrates only a few feet into solid rock, but this shallow thermal cycling creates a gentle rhythm of expansion and contraction that contributes to the rock's ongoing adjustments. Even deeper underground, where seasonal temperature changes can't penetrate, the rock responds to the changing load of groundwater as it accumulates and drains with seasonal patterns, adding another layer to the complex conversations happening within the Earth's crust. The chemical conversations within rock formations follow their own patient timescales, as minerals slowly dissolve in some areas and precipitate in others in response to changing pressure and temperature conditions. Quartz crystals may grow by adding microscopic layers over centuries, while calcite formations dissolve grain by grain in response to slightly acidic groundwater. These chemical adjustments allow the rock to maintain its structural integrity while adapting to slowly changing conditions, like a conversation conducted through the patient exchange of molecular messengers over time frames that dwarf human experience. Fault zones, areas where different blocks of rock meet and occasionally shift relative to each other, are regions of particularly intense whispered conversation. Far from being simple breaks in the rock, these zones are complex communication interfaces where different parts of the Earth's crust negotiate their relative movements through countless tiny adjustments. Most of the time, these negotiations happen through microscopic slippage along mineral grain boundaries, through the slow creep of rock surfaces past each other at rates measured in millimeters per year, and through the gradual redistribution of stress across networks of tiny fractures. The rock layers along fault zones develop specialized structures for these ongoing negotiations, zones of crushed and altered rock that act like lubricants, allowing the larger rock masses to adjust their positions through countless microscopic movements rather than sudden large shifts. These fault zone rocks are products of millions of years of gradual negotiation, their structure adapted specifically for the slow communication and adjustment that characterizes most tectonic movement. Even in areas far from active fault zones, The rock participates in the Earth's crustal conversations through the slow transfer of stress across vast distances. Changes in stress conditions in one region, perhaps due to erosion removing weight from a mountain range or sediment accumulation adding weight to a river delta, create adjustments that propagate through the rock over hundreds or thousands of miles. These stress transfers happen so gradually that they're more like the slow spreading of warmth through a thick blanket than any kind of mechanical transmission. Yet they represent active communication as different parts of the Earth's crust coordinate their responses to changing conditions. The deep rock formations beneath you are also responding to the patient circulation of the Earth's interior, where partially molten material moves in convection patterns that unfold over millions of years. This deep circulation creates slowly changing patterns of heating and cooling in the overlying rock, driving chemical reactions and structural adjustments that affect everything from the stability of continents to the composition of underground water supplies. The rock's whispered response to these deep thermal cycles represents one of the planet's most fundamental conversations, the ongoing exchange between the solid crust and the dynamic interior that ultimately drives all geological processes. As you rest here, feeling the Earth's gentle pulse, you're in direct contact with rock formations that are engaged in all of these whispered conversations simultaneously. The seemingly solid foundation beneath you is actually a complex, dynamic system where countless different types of communication are happening at once. Thermal adjustments, chemical exchanges, structural adaptations, and stress redistributions all proceeding with the patience and persistence that characterize geological processes. These conversations have been going on since the rock formed, and they'll continue long after human civilization has passed into history. The remarkable thing about these conversations is how peaceful they are despite the enormous forces involved. The pressures and temperatures in deep rock formations are so extreme they would instantly vaporize any surface material. Yet the rock accommodates these conditions through gentle, gradual adjustments that maintain stability while allowing for ongoing change. It's like listening to a conversation conducted in whispers so quiet they're almost inaudible, yet dealing with topics of fundamental importance to the stability and health of the entire planet. Understanding these whispers in the rock helps explain why the Earth's surface is so remarkably stable despite being constructed on a foundation that's constantly in motion. The rock's ability to communicate and adjust through countless tiny movements prevents the accumulation of stresses that could lead to sudden, dramatic changes. Most of the Earth's crustal adjustments happen through these whispered conversations, gradual, peaceful, patient adaptations that maintain the stable foundation necessary for life, while allowing the planet to continue its slow geological evolution. As you continue to rest in awareness of these deep conversations, you can begin to sense your connection not just to the rock surface, but to its entire communication network. The solid surfaces supporting you are part of a vast system of ongoing negotiation and adjustment that extends miles into the Earth's interior. Every point of contact between your body and the surfaces around you connects you to this ancient, patient conversation, a dialogue between different parts of the planet that's been proceeding with quiet persistence since the Earth's crust first formed, creating the stable foundation that makes your peaceful rest possible. As you deepen into this awareness of the Earth's gentle communications, you begin to understand that the planet has developed its own language, a sophisticated system of vibrations, waves, and resonances that allows different parts of the Earth to share information across vast distances with remarkable precision and subtlety. This language of stones is spoken not in words or sounds that human ears can hear, but in waves of movement so gentle they travel through solid rock like whispers traveling through a crowded room, carrying messages from one part of the planet to another with patience that spans continents and time frames that encompass geological ages. The alphabet of this stone language consists of seismic waves, patterns of vibration that move through the Earth's interior at different speeds and with different characteristics. Each type of wave carrying its own kind of information about conditions in the regions where it originated. Like different tones in a musical composition, These waves combine to create complex messages that tell stories about temperature, pressure, composition, and structural conditions in areas of the planet that no human has ever seen or could ever visit directly. The primary waves, called P waves, are like the Earth's whispered conversations traveling at their fastest speed. These waves move through rock by compressing and expanding the material in the direction of their travel, like a gentle pulse moving through a long spring that's been compressed and released. P waves can travel through both solid rock and liquid material, making them the Earth's most versatile messengers, capable of carrying information from the deepest parts of the planet to its surface. They move with remarkable speed, several miles per second. Yet their passage is so gentle that most of the time we remain completely unaware of their constant presence. Secondary waves, or S waves, speak in a different dialect of the Earth's language. These waves move through rock by creating a side-to-side shaking motion, like the gentle undulation you might create by moving one end of a rope up and down while someone holds the other end steady. S waves travel more slowly than P waves and can only move through solid material, which gives them the unique ability to reveal information about the state of matter deep within the Earth. When S waves encounter liquid regions, like the molten outer core, they stop entirely, creating shadow zones that tell scientists about the planet's internal structure through the absence of their whispered messages. Surface waves represent the Earth's most elaborate and expressive communications, rolling across the planet's exterior like gentle swells moving across a calm ocean. These waves travel more slowly than either P waves or S waves, but they can carry information across entire hemispheres, allowing events on one side of the planet to be sensed and recorded on the opposite side. Surface waves move with a patient grace that allows them to preserve complex information about their origins, carrying detailed messages about conditions thousands of miles from where they're eventually detected. The Earth speaks this language continuously, generating countless small messages through the constant tiny adjustments happening within its structure. Every microscopic settling of rock layers, every minute thermal expansion, every slight redistribution of stress creates waves that propagate outward from their source, carrying information about local conditions to distant receivers. Most of these messages are so quiet they can only be detected by the most sensitive instruments, representing the planet's equivalent of casual conversation. The ongoing chatter that maintains communication networks and keeps different parts of the system informed about routine conditions and gradual changes. The remarkable thing about the Earthstone language is how it allows the planet to maintain awareness of its own condition across vast scales of space and time. Waves generated by tiny adjustments in one location can be detected thousands of miles away, creating a global communication network that operates continuously and automatically. This planetary awareness system doesn't require any central control or conscious direction. It emerges naturally from the physics of wave propagation through solid material, creating a form of distributed intelligence that spans the entire planet. When different types of waves interact with each other, they create interference patterns that can either amplify or diminish their signals, much like the way multiple conversations in a room can either reinforce each other or cancel each other out, depending on their timing and frequency. These wave interactions add layers of complexity to the Earth's communications, creating opportunities for information from multiple sources to be combined and processed in ways that reveal patterns and relationships that wouldn't be apparent from any single message. The speed at which seismic waves travel depends on the properties of the material they're moving through, making them incredibly sensitive messengers that can reveal detailed information about conditions along their entire path. Waves traveling through hot rock move more slowly than those moving through cool rock. Waves passing through areas under high pressure travel faster than those in regions of lower pressure. Dense materials transmit waves differently than lighter materials. These variations in wave speed create a form of geological tomography, allowing scientists to create detailed pictures of the Earth's interior by analyzing how waves from different sources arrive at different times and with different characteristics. The Earth's communication network becomes particularly active and eloquent when different parts of the planet need to coordinate responses to changing conditions. When stress begins to accumulate in one region, perhaps due to the slow movement of tectonic plates or the gradual redistribution of weight from erosion and sediment deposition, the affected rock begins generating more frequent and slightly stronger messages. These communications spread outward from the stressed region, informing distant areas about the changing conditions and allowing the broader crustal system to begin preparing appropriate responses. This advanced communication system means that significant geological events are often preceded by weeks, months, or even years of gradually increasing conversation as different parts of the Earth's crust coordinate their responses to changing conditions. The rock formations begin sending more frequent messages. The wave patterns become more complex, and sensitive instruments can detect the gradual increase in communication activity long before any changes become apparent at the surface. It's like listening to a conversation gradually become more animated as the participants discuss increasingly important topics. The language of stones includes not just the waves themselves, but also the silences, the absence of expected communications that can be just as informative as the presence of active signals. When waves traveling from distant sources fail to arrive at their expected times or with their expected characteristics, these gaps in communication reveal information about intervening structures that absorbed, reflected, or redirected the signals. The Earth's internal boundaries, the interfaces between different layers or between regions of different composition, often reveal themselves through these communication shadows rather than through direct signals. Underground caverns, oil and gas deposits, groundwater reserves, and other subsurface features all affect the propagation of seismic waves in characteristic ways, creating distinctive signatures in the planet's communication patterns. A large underground cavity might create an echo or reflection that adds a particular harmonic to passing waves. A region of water-saturated rock might slow down certain types of waves while allowing others to pass unchanged. These modifications to the Earth's standard communication patterns allow the planet to maintain detailed awareness of its own internal structure and composition. The temporal patterns in the Earth's stone language are as important as the spatial patterns. Daily temperature cycles create subtle but regular patterns of thermal expansion and contraction that add a rhythmic background to the planet's communications. Seasonal changes in groundwater levels, snow loads, and atmospheric pressure create longer period cycles that modulate the baseline conversation. Tidal forces from the moon and sun create twice-daily patterns of stress and relaxation that affect the timing and intensity of the Earth's wave communications. These cyclical patterns allow the Earth to distinguish between routine, predictable communications and messages that indicate unusual or changing conditions. Just as you might notice when a normally talkative friend becomes unusually quiet or when a usually reserved person becomes suddenly animated, the Earth's communication network can identify anomalies in the normal pattern of wave propagation that indicate something significant is developing in a particular region. The planet's stone language also includes harmonics and overtones that add richness and complexity to its communications. When waves reflect off internal boundaries or interact with the Earth's surface, they can generate secondary signals at different frequencies that carry additional information about the structures they encountered. These harmonic communications allow a single seismic source to generate multiple messages that reveal different aspects of the path the waves traveled and the conditions they encountered along the way. Local geology acts like the accent or dialect of the Earth's stone language, modifying wave patterns in ways that reveal information about regional rock types, structural orientations, and historical geological processes. Waves traveling through granite communicate differently than those moving through sandstone or limestone. Areas of the crust that have been folded or fractured by ancient mountain-building processes create characteristic modifications to wave patterns that reflect their complex structural histories. These geological dialects allow scientists to read the Earth's communications like linguists analyzing different regional variations of a spoken language. The Earth's communication network operates with remarkable efficiency, automatically routing information through the paths that provide the clearest transmission while avoiding routes that might distort or block important messages. When waves encounter obstacles or regions of poor transmission, they naturally spread into areas of better propagation, ensuring that critical information can still reach distant receivers even when direct paths are blocked. This natural redundancy in the communication system helps ensure that different parts of the planet can maintain awareness of each other's conditions, even when some communication channels are temporarily disrupted. The stone language includes both local conversations, communications between nearby regions that share information about immediate conditions and coordinate short-term responses, and long-distance messages that carry information across continents and ocean basins. These long-distance communications are particularly important for maintaining the global perspective necessary for coordinating responses to planet-wide processes like climate change, ice age cycles, and the slow drift of continents across the Earth's surface. Modern technology has allowed humans to become sophisticated listeners to the Earth's stone language, developing instruments sensitive enough to detect waves so small they represent displacements smaller than the diameter of an atom. These ultra-sensitive seismometers reveal that the Earth is never silent. There's always some level of communication happening as different parts of the planet share information about their current conditions and coordinate their ongoing adjustments. The background level of seismic communication forms a kind of planetary consciousness that operates continuously below the threshold of human awareness. The Earth's stone language also preserves historical information, as waves can become trapped in certain geological structures and continue reverberating for extended periods, like echoes in a vast underground cathedral. These trapped waves carry information about past events, allowing the effects of ancient geological processes to influence current communication patterns. In some cases, waves generated by significant events can continue circling the globe for hours or days, gradually diminishing but preserving a record of their origin that can be detected and analyzed long after the original event has ended. As you rest here in growing awareness of this planetary communication system, you begin to understand that you're not just sitting on solid ground, but are actually positioned within an active information network that spans the entire Earth. Every surface that touches your body is connected to this vast communication web, making you a participant in the planet's ongoing conversation with itself. The seemingly silent stones beneath you are actually engaged in constant dialogue, sharing information about conditions throughout the Earth's interior and coordinating the countless adjustments that maintain the stable foundation necessary for life on the planet's surface. The language of stones speaks in frequencies and rhythms that exist outside normal human perception, yet represents one of the most sophisticated communication systems on Earth, a planetary nervous system that maintains awareness and coordination across scales of space and time that dwarf any human organization. Through this stone language, the Earth maintains its integrity as a single, unified system while allowing for the countless local variations and adjustments that create the dynamic stability necessary for supporting the incredible diversity of life that flourishes on its surface. In the quiet moments before dawn, when the world seems wrapped in the deepest stillness, there exists a realm of subtle awareness that spans the natural world, a gentle network of sensitivity that connects all living things to the Earth's most delicate communications. This is the realm where animals, plants, and even the atmosphere itself participate in the planet's whispered conversations, detecting and responding to changes so subtle that human senses cannot perceive them, yet so significant that they represent the Earth's way of preparing its living communities for the gradual adjustments that maintain the planet's ongoing stability and health. As you rest in this growing awareness of the Earth's gentle pulse and stone language, you begin to understand that you are surrounded by countless other listeners, creatures great and small who have evolved over millions of years to be sensitive to the planet's subtlest communications. These natural sensors form a living network of awareness that extends the Earth's communication system into the realm of biology, creating connections between the planet's geological processes and the life forms that depend on its stability for their survival and prosperity. Consider the ancient trees growing in forests around the world, their root systems extending deep into the soil, where they make intimate contact with the bedrock beneath. These forest giants, some of which have stood for hundreds or even thousands of years, have developed an exquisite sensitivity to the Earth's most delicate movements. Their massive root networks, spreading horizontally for distances that can exceed their height and reaching vertically down into the Earth's crust, create biological seismometers of remarkable sensitivity and sophistication. When the Earth whispers through tiny adjustments in its crustal structure, these trees feel the subtle changes through their root systems long before any human instrument might detect them. The slight tilting that might result from microscopic shifts in underground rock formations, the minute changes in soil moisture patterns that reflect deep groundwater adjustments, the barely perceptible alterations in the chemical composition of soil water that indicate changing conditions in the bedrock below, all of these subtle signals are detected and processed by the tree's biological monitoring systems. The trees respond to these delicate communications in ways that reflect their deep integration with the Earth systems. Their growth patterns may shift slightly, with new growth oriented to accommodate changed stress patterns in the soil. Their root systems may extend new exploratory branches toward areas where conditions have become more favorable, or they may strengthen existing roots in response to changing support requirements. These adjustments happen so gradually and subtly that they're invisible to casual observation, yet they represent active participation in the Earth's ongoing conversation about changing conditions and appropriate responses. Deep in underground burrows and tunnel systems, small mammals have developed their own sophisticated awareness of the Earth's communications. Creatures like moles, ground squirrels, and other underground dwellers live in direct contact with soil and rock systems that transmit the Earth's subtle vibrations with remarkable clarity. Their bodies, adapted for life in the supportive embrace of the Earth, have become extraordinarily sensitive to changes in ground stability, moisture levels, and the minute vibrations that indicate shifting conditions in the surrounding geological environment. These underground residents often exhibit behavioral changes in response to geological communications that are far too subtle for surface-dwelling creatures to detect. They may alter their tunneling patterns, moving toward areas where ground conditions have become more stable or avoiding regions where microscopic changes indicate future adjustments. Their food storage behaviors may shift as they respond to subtle changes in soil chemistry that affect the root systems of the plants they depend on. These behavioral modifications happen gradually and peacefully, representing adaptive responses to information rather than reactions to crisis. Birds, with their remarkable ability to sense magnetic fields, air pressure changes, and subtle variations in atmospheric conditions, serve as living monitors of the Earth's communication with its atmospheric envelope. Many bird species can detect minute changes in atmospheric pressure that occur when underground adjustments alter the way the Earth's surface interacts with the overlying air masses. These pressure changes are often so small, they exist at the very threshold of detection, yet they provide early information about geological processes that might not become apparent through other means for days or weeks. Migratory birds, in particular, have evolved extraordinary sensitivity to the Earth's magnetic field and the subtle ways it's influenced by underground electrical currents and geological processes. Changes in the conductivity of rock formations, alterations in groundwater flow patterns, and shifts in the mineral composition of surface materials can all create minute modifications to local magnetic field patterns. These magnetic whispers become part of the bird's navigation system, but they also provide information about changing geological conditions that the birds incorporate into their behavioral decisions about timing, route selection, and habitat use. Domestic animals, despite their removal from wild environments, often retain remarkable sensitivity to the Earth's subtle communications. Dogs and cats frequently exhibit behavioral changes in response to geological signals that their human companions cannot detect. These behavioral modifications typically appear as increased restlessness, changes in sleeping patterns, reluctance to enter certain areas, or alterations in their normal social interactions. Rather than representing anxiety or distress, These behaviors often reflect the animal's awareness of changing conditions and their instinctive responses to information about environmental stability and safety. Horses and other large domestic animals show particular sensitivity to changes in ground stability and the minute vibrations that indicate geological adjustments in progress. Their behavior may become more cautious, with increased attention to footing and reluctance to engage in activities that require full confidence in ground stability. These behavioral changes represent sophisticated processing of sensory information that includes not just obvious visual and tactile cues, but also the detection of subtle vibrations, changes in soil electrical conductivity, and alterations in the sense signatures that arise from changing underground chemical processes. Aquatic environments provide particularly clear examples of how living systems detect and respond to the Earth's geological communications. Fish and other aquatic animals are extraordinarily sensitive to changes in water pressure, temperature, and chemical composition that can result from geological processes occurring in the watersheds that feed their aquatic homes. Underground springs may alter their flow rates or chemical signatures in response to deep geological adjustments, creating changes in lake and river conditions that aquatic life detects and responds to long before human monitoring systems register any modifications. The behavior of fish often changes in response to subtle alterations in water chemistry that result from underground processes affecting groundwater systems. Changes in the mineral content of spring water, alterations in the pH balance of streams fed by underground sources, and modifications to the dissolved gas content of water bodies can all reflect geological processes occurring deep beneath the surface. Fish populations may shift their distribution patterns, alter their feeding behaviors, or modify their reproductive timing in response to these chemical whispers from the Earth's underground systems. Even plants at the surface level participate in this network of geological awareness through their remarkable sensitivity to changes in soil conditions that reflect deeper processes. Root systems detect alterations in soil moisture patterns that may result from changes in underground water flow. They sense modifications in soil chemistry that occur when underground mineral dissolution and precipitation processes shift in response to changing pressure and temperature conditions in the bedrock. They respond to changes in soil electrical conductivity that reflect alterations in groundwater mineral content and flow patterns. Plant communities often show gradual shifts in their growth patterns, flowering timing, and competitive relationships in response to these underground signals. Areas where geological conditions are shifting may see changes in which plant species thrive, as different plants respond differently to the altered soil conditions that result from changing underground processes. These plant community changes happen gradually and represent adaptation to changing conditions rather than stress responses to environmental degradation. The network of biological sensitivity to geological processes extends even to atmospheric phenomena that reflect the Earth's underground communications. Changes in soil temperature patterns that result from deep thermal processes can create subtle alterations in local air circulation patterns. Modifications to soil moisture content that reflect changing underground water systems can affect local humidity levels and atmospheric stability. These atmospheric changes are often too subtle for human perception, but they're detected by insects, small mammals, and other creatures whose survival depends on precise awareness of environmental conditions. Bee colonies, for example, may modify their foraging patterns in response to changes in atmospheric conditions that reflect underground geological processes. Alterations in air pressure patterns, modifications to local wind flow, and changes in the scent signatures carried by air movement can all provide information about changing geological conditions in the surrounding area. Bee Scouts may report back information about areas where atmospheric conditions suggest geological stability versus areas where subtle changes indicate ongoing adjustments in underground systems. The remarkable aspect of this biological monitoring network is how it operates through normal, healthy behaviors rather than through stress responses or emergency reactions. The creatures participating in this system have evolved to incorporate geological awareness into their routine decision-making processes, using information about Earth's communications to optimize their choices about habitat use, timing of activities, and resource allocation. This integration of geological awareness into normal biological function represents millions of years of coevolution between life and the Earth's geological systems. This biological sensitivity network also demonstrates the Earth's remarkable stability and predictability. The fact that living systems can evolve such sophisticated responses to geological communications indicates that the Earth's processes follow patterns reliable enough for biological systems to incorporate them into their survival strategies. The geological communications are consistent and informative enough to serve as useful information for biological decision-making, rather than random noise that would provide no adaptive advantage. The peaceful nature of most geological adjustments is reflected in the calm, adaptive responses of biological monitoring systems. Rather than triggering panic or emergency responses, geological communications typically result in gradual behavioral adjustments that represent optimization rather than crisis management. This pattern reflects the Earth's normal mode of operation through countless small, gradual adjustments that maintain stability while allowing for ongoing adaptation to changing conditions. Indigenous human cultures often developed sophisticated awareness of these biological indicator systems, learning to read the behavior of animals and plants as sources of information about changing geological and atmospheric conditions. Traditional knowledge systems frequently included detailed understanding of how different species respond to subtle environmental changes, allowing human communities to participate in the Earth's communication network through careful observation of the natural indicators that surrounded them. Modern scientific monitoring increasingly recognizes the value of biological indicator systems as early warning networks that can detect geological and atmospheric changes before conventional instruments register measurable alterations. Research programs monitor animal behavior, plant community changes, and atmospheric phenomena as part of comprehensive systems for understanding and predicting geological processes. These programs validate the sophistication of natural monitoring systems that have evolved over millions of years to detect and respond to the Earth's subtle communications. As you rest here in growing awareness of this vast network of natural sensitivity, you begin to understand that you are surrounded by countless quiet listeners who are constantly tuned in to the Earth's whispered conversations. Every tree, every bird, every small creature in the soil beneath you is participating in a communication network that connects the geological processes of the planet with the biological systems that depend on its stability. This living monitoring system represents one of the most sophisticated early warning networks on Earth, operating continuously and automatically to maintain awareness of changing conditions and coordinate appropriate responses across the entire community of life that shares our planet's surface. The peaceful integration of biological and geological systems that this monitoring network represents demonstrates the fundamental harmony between life and the Earth's processes. Rather than being separate systems that occasionally interact, biological and geological processes are revealed as aspects of a single, integrated planetary system where communication and coordination operate across all scales of organization, from the molecular processes within individual cells to the global patterns that coordinate responses across entire continents. Beneath the peaceful awareness you've developed of the Earth's gentle pulse and whispered communications lies an even grander story: the slow, majestic dance of the massive rock plates that form the Earth's outer shell. These continental-sized pieces of the planet's crust move with such patience and grace that their motion exists entirely outside human perception of time. Yet their elegant choreography represents one of the most fundamental and beautiful aspects of how our planet maintains its dynamic stability and continues its geological evolution across the vast time frames that define planetary existence. Imagine the Earth's surface not as solid, immobile ground, but as a collection of enormous, slow-moving rafts floating on a partially molten layer beneath. These tectonic plates, some larger than entire continents, drift across the planet's surface at speeds so gentle they make the growth of fingernails seem rapid by comparison. Most plates move only a few inches per year, about the same rate at which your hair grows. Yet over the millions and billions of years that define geological time, this patient movement has created and destroyed ocean basins, built and worn away mountain ranges, and continuously reshaped the face of our planet. The dance of these plates follows patterns of extraordinary grace and complexity, with each plate's movement influenced by its interactions with all the neighboring plates in a global choreography that coordinates motion across the entire planet. Like dancers in a vast, slow ballet, the plates move in harmony with each other, their individual motions contributing to larger patterns that maintain the overall balance and beauty of the planetary system. No plate moves independently. Each one's path is determined by its relationships with its neighbors and its response to the deep currents flowing in the partially molten material beneath. At the boundaries where plates meet, the most active communications in the Earth's dance take place. These boundary zones are not sharp lines where plates suddenly break contact, but rather broad regions where the edges of adjacent plates engage in gradual, patient negotiations about how to accommodate their relative motions. These negotiations happen through countless tiny adjustments spread across hundreds of miles and unfolding over thousands of years, representing some of the most sophisticated examples of how the Earth manages large-scale change through the accumulation of countless small, peaceful adaptations. Along divergent boundaries, where plates move apart from each other, new oceanic crust is born in a process of remarkable gentleness and beauty. Deep beneath the ocean floor, partially molten rock rises slowly from the Earth's interior, cooling and solidifying to create new seafloor that gradually pushes the adjacent plates apart. This process happens so gradually that it's more like watching ice form on a winter pond than any kind of dramatic event. The new rock crystallizes slowly and peacefully, adding to the growing edge of each plate and contributing to their patient separation. The mid-ocean ridges where this new crust forms represent some of the most peaceful and productive geological environments on Earth. Here, the planet creates new surface through processes so gentle they support thriving ecosystems of deep-sea life that depend on the chemical energy released by these gradual rock-forming processes. The creation of new oceanic crust happens continuously and steadily, like a slow-motion flowering that adds new petals to the Earth's surface at a rate perfectly matched to the patient spreading of the ocean basins. Convergent boundaries, where plates move toward each other, showcase some of the most elegant examples of geological negotiation and accommodation. When two plates meet, they don't simply collide like objects in a crash, but rather engage in a prolonged conversation about how to manage the gradual convergence of their vast masses. This conversation can unfold over millions of years, with the plates making countless tiny adjustments as they work out the mechanics of their approach and the ultimate resolution of their meeting. When oceanic plates converge with continental plates, the denser oceanic crust gradually descends beneath the lighter continental mass in a process called subduction. This descent happens with remarkable smoothness and grace, as the oceanic plate bends and flows downward into the Earth's interior like a vast, slow waterfall of solid rock. The subducting plate doesn't break or shatter, but rather maintains its integrity as it carries surface materials and trapped ocean water deep into the planet's interior, where they become part of the deep circulation systems that drive the entire tectonic dance. The subduction process creates some of the Earth's most beautiful surface features through mechanisms of extraordinary gentleness. As the descending plate releases water and other materials into the overlying mantle, it triggers partial melting that eventually leads to volcanic activity. But this volcanic activity typically unfolds over time frames and with characteristics that reflect the gradual, patient nature of the underlying processes. Most volcanic systems build slowly over thousands of years, creating magnificent mountain chains and island arcs through the steady accumulation of countless small contributions. When two continental plates converge, their meeting creates some of the planet's most spectacular examples of geological cooperation and compromise. Since both plates have similar density and neither can easily subduct beneath the other, they must find other ways to accommodate their convergence. This leads to the slow, majestic building of mountain ranges through processes that demonstrate the Earth's remarkable ability to transform collision into creation, conflict into beauty. The formation of great mountain chains like the Himalayas or the Alps represents millions of years of patient negotiation between converging continental masses. Rather than one plate simply overriding the other, both plates contribute to the mountain-building process through complex patterns of folding, faulting, and uplift that distribute the effects of convergence across broad regions and long time frames. The result is not destruction, but creation, the birth of some of the planet's most magnificent landscapes through processes that exemplify cooperation and mutual accommodation. Transform boundaries represent perhaps the most elegant expression of the Earth's ability to manage relative motion between plates through gradual adjustment rather than sudden disruption. Along these boundaries, plates slide past each other horizontally, like two pieces of wood being slowly moved in opposite directions while remaining in contact. This motion is accommodated through countless tiny movements along networks of fractures and fault systems that allow the plates to maintain their integrity while adjusting their positions relative to each other. The San Andreas Fault System in California provides a beautiful example of how transform motion is managed through distributed adjustment rather than concentrated disruption. Rather than being a single break in the Earth's crust, the San Andreas system consists of a complex network of interconnected fault zones that share the accommodation of plate motion across a region hundreds of miles wide. Most of the relative motion between the plates is accomplished through gradual creep, slow, continuous sliding that happens so gradually it can be measured but not felt. This pattern of distributed, gradual adjustment represents the Earth's preferred method for managing tectonic motion. The vast majority of plate boundary adjustment happens through peaceful processes like slow creep, gradual folding, distributed deformation, and the continuous creation and destruction of small-scale structures. These processes operate continuously and steadily, maintaining the overall pattern of plate motion while avoiding the accumulation of stress that could lead to sudden adjustments. The driving forces behind the plate dance operate with the same patient persistence that characterizes the surface motions themselves. Deep within the Earth's mantle, convection currents flow with the consistency of thick honey, carrying heat from the planet's interior toward the surface in patterns that unfold over millions of years. These mantle currents don't rush or surge, but rather flow with steady persistence, driven by temperature differences between the hot interior and the cooler surface regions. The relationship between mantle convection and plate motion represents one of the most beautiful examples of how different scales of Earth processes coordinate to create stable, long-term patterns. The slowly flowing mantle provides the energy and driving force for plate motion, while the moving plates provide a mechanism for the mantle to release heat and maintain its circulation patterns. Neither system could operate without the other, and their integration creates a planetary heat engine of remarkable efficiency and longevity. The dance of plates also demonstrates the Earth's remarkable memory and its ability to preserve information about past configurations and movements. The magnetic patterns preserved in oceanic crust provide a detailed record of past magnetic field reversals and plate motions stretching back hundreds of millions of years. The structural patterns in ancient mountain belts tell stories of plate collisions and separations that occurred billions of years ago. Even the distribution of different rock types across the continents preserves information about past plate positions and the ancient climates that existed when the continents occupied different positions on the globe. This geological memory allows scientists to reconstruct the history of the plate dance, revealing patterns of motion that show how the current configuration of continents and ocean basins evolved from completely different arrangements in the past. The Atlantic Ocean, for example, began forming about 200 million years ago when a single supercontinent called Pangaea began to break apart through the patient processes of continental rifting and seafloor spreading. The slow separation of the American continents from Europe and Africa created the Atlantic Basin through the same gentle processes that continue to widen the ocean today. The plate dance also reveals the Earth's ability to create and maintain remarkable stability through constant motion. Despite the continuous movement and interaction of the plates, the overall system maintains patterns that have persisted for billions of years. The mechanisms that drive plate motion, the processes that accommodate plate interactions, and the cycles that recycle crustal material all operate according to principles that have remained essentially unchanged throughout most of Earth's history. This stability through motion represents one of the most profound aspects of the plate dance. Rather than being a system in equilibrium that resists change, the Earth's tectonic system maintains its stability precisely because it's constantly in motion, constantly adjusting, constantly responding to changing conditions. The continuous movement prevents the accumulation of stresses or imbalances that could lead to system-wide instabilities. The ongoing creation and destruction of crustal material ensures that the system never becomes locked into static configurations that might prove vulnerable to disruption. The timescales on which the plate dance operates create a perspective that transforms our understanding of stability and change. Processes that seem permanent from a human perspective, the shapes of continents, the positions of mountain ranges, the configurations of ocean basins, are revealed as temporary arrangements in an ongoing dance that will continue to reshape the planet's surface for billions of years into the future. Yet this long-term impermanence coexists with remarkable short-term stability that provides the reliable foundation necessary for the evolution and maintenance of complex life. The plate dance also demonstrates the interconnectedness of all geological processes. The motion of plates influences volcanic activity, which affects atmospheric composition and climate. The creation and destruction of ocean basins changes sea levels and oceanic circulation patterns. The building and erosion of mountain ranges affects weather patterns and the distribution of water across continents. The subduction of oceanic crust carries surface materials into the deep earth, while volcanic activity brings deep materials to the surface. All of these processes are connected through the grand choreography of plate motion. Modern technology allows us to observe the plate dance in real time, using satellite measurements that can detect the movement of continents with precision measured in millimeters. These observations confirm that the plates are indeed moving according to the patterns predicted by tectonic theory, and they reveal the remarkable consistency and predictability of emotions. The dance continues today exactly as it has for billions of years, with each plate following its trajectory in the grand choreography that shapes our planet. As you rest here in awareness of this vast, slow dance happening beneath you, you begin to understand that the solid ground supporting you is actually part of a dynamic system of unimaginable scale and beauty. The North American plate, carrying the entire continent on its slow journey across the Earth's surface, moves beneath you at this very moment. Its motion is too gradual to feel, too patient to perceive directly. Yet it represents participation in a dance that connects your location to geological processes operating throughout the planet and across all of geological time. The plate dance reveals the Earth as a system of extraordinary grace and patience, where the largest possible changes are accomplished through the accumulation of countless small adjustments, where apparent stability emerges from constant motion, and where the most massive objects in our terrestrial experience move with a gentleness that exemplifies the peaceful persistence that characterizes all of the planet's most fundamental processes. In the slow dance of plates, the Earth demonstrates its mastery of time, showing how patience and gradual adjustment can accomplish transformations that seem impossible when viewed from the limited perspective of human timescales, yet unfold with perfect naturalness when understood from the planetary perspective that encompasses the true scope of geological time and process. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, far below the familiar world of soil and bedrock, there exists a realm of flowing motion so gentle and persistent that it operates according to principles that seem to blend the properties of liquid and solid into something entirely unique. Here, in the Earth's mantle, that vast shell of rock that extends from just beneath the crust down to the planet's metallic core, Material flows in patterns so patient they make the movement of glaciers seem rapid, yet so persistent they drive all the geological processes that shape our planet's surface over the immense time frames of geological history. These underground rivers of motion don't flow like water or any fluid you might imagine, but rather like the slowest honey imaginable, heated until it can barely move, yet still maintaining the ability to flow and circulate in patterns that span the entire interior of the planet. The rock in the Earth's mantle is so hot, temperatures reaching thousands of degrees, that it exists in a state between solid and liquid, maintaining its structural integrity like a solid, while possessing just enough mobility to flow like an extremely thick fluid over the vast time frames that govern planetary processes. As you rest here in growing awareness of the Earth's gentle communications, you can begin to sense that beneath the seemingly solid foundation supporting you, there are currents flowing with the patience of geological time itself. These mantle currents move at speeds measured in inches per year, similar to the rate at which your fingernails grow. Yet they transport enormous quantities of heat and material across distances that span the entire diameter of the planet. The motion is so gradual that if you could observe it directly, it would appear completely motionless, yet it represents one of the most powerful and persistent forces operating within our planetary system. The driving force behind these underground rivers is the fundamental principle that heat always flows from warmer regions toward cooler ones, but applied on a scale and timeline that encompasses the entire planet and billions of years of operation. Deep within the Earth's core, temperatures reach levels comparable to the surface of the sun, while near the planet's surface, temperatures are hundreds of times cooler. This enormous temperature difference creates a gradient that drives convection currents throughout the mantle as hotter material slowly rises toward the surface, while cooler material gradually sinks toward the interior. Imagine the gentlest possible circulation pattern in a vast pot of the thickest syrup imaginable, heated from below and cooled from above. The warm syrup at the bottom would gradually become buoyant and begin to rise, while the cooler syrup at the top would slowly become denser and begin to sink. But rather than the rapid circulation you might see in a pot of water on a stove, this circulation would unfold with such patience that it would take millions of years to complete a single cycle. This is the essence of mantle convection, the same physical principles that drive all convective motion, but operating at a pace that matches the timescales of planetary evolution. These underground rivers follow pathways that exist in 3 dimensions throughout the entire volume of the Earth's mantle, creating circulation patterns of extraordinary complexity and beauty. Hot material rises from deep within the planet in broad, slowly ascending plumes that could be hundreds of miles across. As this material approaches the surface, it spreads horizontally, carrying its heat across vast distances before cooling and beginning the long journey back toward the planet's interior. The descending currents of cooler material follow equally grand pathways, sinking through the mantle in broad sheets and narrow streams that eventually reach the deep interior, where they're reheated and begin the cycle anew. The 3-dimensional nature of these circulation patterns creates a constantly shifting architecture of flow within the Earth's interior. Unlike surface rivers that follow fixed channels carved into the landscape, the underground rivers of the mantle can change their paths as conditions evolve, creating new circulation patterns and abandoning old ones in response to changes in temperature distribution, material properties, and the overall thermal evolution of the planet. This flexibility allows the mantle circulation system to maintain its efficiency over billions of years while adapting to the gradual changes that characterize planetary aging. The material flowing in these underground rivers isn't uniform, but consists of rock with varying compositions, temperatures, and physical properties that create complex interactions within the circulation system. Regions of the mantle that are slightly hotter than their surroundings become more buoyant and tend to rise, while areas that are cooler or more dense tend to sink. These differences in buoyancy create a constantly evolving pattern of vertical motion that drives the overall circulation while creating countless smaller eddies, currents, and flow variations throughout the system. The interaction between the underground rivers and the Earth's surface occurs primarily through the slow process of heat transfer. But this thermal communication has profound effects on everything from the movement of tectonic plates to the location of volcanic activity. Areas where hot mantle material approaches the surface become zones of elevated heat flow that can influence surface temperatures, groundwater circulation, and even local climate patterns. Conversely, regions where cool material dominates the shallow mantle create areas of reduced heat flow that can affect everything from soil temperatures to the formation of certain types of mineral deposits. The timescales on which these underground rivers operate create a perspective that transforms our understanding of geological processes. A single circulation cycle in the mantle, the time it takes for material to rise from the deep interior, spread across the shallow mantle, cool, and sink back to depth, can take tens or hundreds of millions of years to complete. This means that the mantle material beneath your feet may have begun its current journey toward the surface during the age of dinosaurs, or even earlier, traveling through the Earth's interior with such patience that its motion exists entirely outside human perception of time. Yet despite these vast timescales, the underground rivers maintain remarkable consistency in their overall patterns. The fundamental circulation structure, hot material rising and cool material sinking, has operated continuously throughout most of Earth's history, providing the steady energy source that drives plate tectonics, maintains volcanic activity, and powers the geological processes that recycle crustal material and maintain the planet's chemical evolution. This consistency demonstrates the remarkable stability of the physical principles that govern planetary behavior, even when applied on scales that dwarf human experience. The underground rivers also serve as the planet's primary thermal regulation system, transporting heat from the Earth's interior toward the surface where it can be radiated away into space. Without this convective heat transport, the Earth's interior would continue to heat up from radioactive decay and primordial heat sources until it reached temperatures that could destabilize the entire planetary system. The mantle circulation provides a steady, efficient mechanism for maintaining thermal equilibrium between heat production in the interior and heat loss at the surface. This thermal regulation function operates with remarkable precision over geological timescales, automatically adjusting its efficiency in response to changing conditions. When the Earth's interior becomes hotter, the increased temperature difference between interior and surface drives more vigorous convection, which transports heat more efficiently and helps stabilize temperatures. When interior temperatures decrease, convection becomes less vigorous, reducing heat transport and helping to maintain thermal balance. This natural thermostat has operated continuously for billions of years, maintaining the thermal conditions necessary for a stable, habitable planet. The chemical evolution of the planet is also intimately connected to the underground rivers of motion. As mantle material circulates, it transports chemical components from the deep interior toward the surface, where they can be incorporated into crustal rocks, released through volcanic activity, or interact with surface systems like the atmosphere and oceans. This chemical transport creates a slow but steady exchange between the Earth's interior and exterior that has been essential for maintaining the chemical conditions necessary for life. The underground rivers also facilitate the recycling of surface materials back into the Earth's interior through the process of subduction, where oceanic plates carrying surface sediments, water, and other materials are carried down into the mantle along descending convection currents. This recycling process ensures that surface materials don't simply accumulate indefinitely, but rather participate in the grand circulation patterns that connect all parts of the Earth system over geological time. Modern scientific techniques have allowed researchers to map these underground rivers using methods that detect how seismic waves travel through regions of different temperature and composition in the mantle. These seismic imaging techniques reveal circulation patterns of extraordinary beauty and complexity, showing plumes of hot material rising from the deep mantle, sheets of cool material descending from the surface, and complex three-dimensional flow patterns that vary from region to region around the globe. The images created by seismic tomography show the mantle as a dynamic, flowing system where material streams follow pathways that connect surface geological features to deep interior processes. Hot spots like those beneath Hawaii and Iceland appear as rising plumes of hot material that originate from deep within the mantle, while subduction zones appear as descending sheets of cool material that carry surface materials back into the interior. These images provide direct evidence of the underground rivers that have been inferred from surface observations and theoretical models. The underground rivers also influence the Earth's magnetic field through their effect on circulation patterns in the liquid iron core that lies beneath the mantle. The mantle circulation affects heat flow at the core mantle boundary, which influences convection patterns in the liquid core that generate the Earth's magnetic field. This connection means that changes in mantle circulation can eventually affect the magnetic field that protects our planet from harmful solar radiation and cosmic particles. The interaction between mantle circulation and core dynamics also affects the long-term evolution of the planet's magnetic field, including periodic reversals where magnetic north and south poles switch positions. These magnetic reversals occur irregularly over geological time and appear to be related to changes in core circulation patterns that are ultimately influenced by the thermal evolution of the mantle. The underground rivers thus play a role in maintaining one of the Earth's most important protective systems. Regional variations in mantle circulation create distinct geological provinces on the Earth's surface, each characterized by different patterns of volcanic activity, crustal structure, and geological evolution. Areas above rising mantle plumes tend to be regions of elevated topography, active volcanism, and crustal extension. Regions above descending convection currents often show characteristics like reduced heat flow, subsidence, and unique patterns of crustal deformation. These surface expressions of deep circulation patterns demonstrate how the underground rivers of motion influence geological processes throughout the entire thickness of the solid Earth. The underground rivers also play a crucial role in the planet's water cycle over geological timescales. Water carried into the mantle through subduction can be transported by convection currents and eventually return to the surface through volcanic activity, creating a deep water cycle that operates parallel to the familiar surface water cycle, but on much longer timescales. This deep water circulation may be essential for maintaining the planet's surface water inventory over billions of years of geological evolution. As you rest here in growing awareness of these vast underground rivers flowing beneath you, you begin to understand that the solid ground supporting you is actually the surface expression of a dynamic system that extends throughout the entire interior of the planet. The mantle convection currents flowing thousands of miles beneath your feet are ultimately responsible for the gradual motions of the tectonic plates, the formation of mountain ranges, the activity of volcanoes, and countless other geological processes that shape the Earth's surface. The underground rivers of motion represent one of the most fundamental aspects of how planets work. The steady, patient circulation of heat and material that maintains thermal equilibrium, drives geological processes, and creates the dynamic stability necessary for planetary habitability. These currents have flowed continuously for billions of years with a consistency and persistence that makes them among the most reliable and enduring phenomena in the natural world. The peace and stability of your current resting place is made possible by the ongoing circulation of these underground rivers, which maintain the thermal and chemical conditions necessary for a stable planetary surface. The solid foundation beneath you is connected through these deep circulation patterns to the entire interior of the planet, making you a participant in geological processes that operate on scales and timescales that encompass the entire history and future evolution of the Earth. In the gentle, persistent flow of the underground rivers, the planet demonstrates its mastery of patience and persistence, showing how the most gradual processes can accomplish the most fundamental transformations over the vast time frames that define planetary existence. As you rest in this deepening awareness of the Earth's patient communications and flowing motions, you begin to sense something even more intimate and rhythmic, a pattern of gentle expansion and contraction that pervades the entire planet like the breathing of some vast, living being. This is the Earth's own version of breathing, not the rapid exchange of gases that sustains biological life, but a slow, deep rhythm of stress accumulation and release that maintains the planet's geological health and allows for the peaceful adjustment to the countless forces that act upon our world from both within and without. The Earth's breathing operates on timescales that span years, decades, and centuries, yet it follows patterns as regular and essential as your own respiratory cycle. Just as your breathing involves the gradual expansion of your lungs to draw in air, followed by gentle contraction to release it, the Earth experiences cycles of gradual stress accumulation in its crustal rocks, followed by peaceful release through countless small adjustments that restore equilibrium and prepare the system for the next breathing cycle. Imagine the entire planet as a single, unified organism that must accommodate the constant changes in pressure, temperature, and loading that result from its position in space, its internal heat production, and the countless dynamic processes occurring both on its surface and in its deep interior. These accommodations don't happen instantly or chaotically, but rather follow rhythmic patterns that allow the planet to maintain its structural integrity while adapting to changing conditions with the grace and efficiency that characterize all well-designed natural systems. The tidal breathing of the Earth represents one of the most obvious examples of this planetary respiratory cycle. Twice each day, the gravitational pull of the moon and sun causes the solid Earth to flex and bulge ever so slightly, rising and falling by distances measured in centimeters across the entire planet's surface. This solid Earth tide follows the same rhythmic pattern as ocean tides, but affects the rock itself rather than just the water, creating a gentle, breathing motion that flexes the entire planetary crust in response to celestial forces. During each tidal cycle, the Earth's crust experiences a slow increase in stress as gravitational forces pull and stretch the rock in various directions. This stress accumulation happens so gradually that it's imperceptible to human senses. Yet sensitive instruments can detect the subtle changes in rock strain that occur as the tide builds toward its peak. At the height of each tidal cycle, the accumulated stress reaches its maximum, holding the entire planetary crust in a state of gentle tension, like lungs filled to capacity with air. The release phase of the tidal breathing cycle occurs as gravitational forces relax and the accumulated stress in the crustal rocks slowly dissipates. This release doesn't happen all at once, but rather unfolds gradually as different parts of the crust adjust their positions to accommodate the changing stress patterns. The rock layers settle back toward their equilibrium positions, releasing the stored elastic energy through countless microscopic adjustments that restore the system's balance and prepare it for the next tidal cycle. This twice-daily breathing pattern creates a background rhythm that influences all other geological processes occurring within the Earth's crust. Fault systems experience slight changes in stress during each tidal cycle, sometimes accelerating their gradual creep motion during stress peaks and slowing during stress valleys. Groundwater systems respond to the subtle changes in rock compression, with water levels in wells rising and falling slightly in response to the tidal flexing of underground rock formations. Even the emission of gases from the Earth's interior varies with tidal cycles, as the breathing motion affects the permeability of rock formations and the pathways available for gas migration. Atmospheric breathing represents another fundamental rhythm in the Earth's respiratory cycle, operating on timescales that range from daily to seasonal. Changes in atmospheric pressure create loading cycles that cause the Earth's surface to rise and fall by microscopic amounts as the weight of the overlying air changes. High-pressure weather systems press down on the Earth's surface with slightly more force than low-pressure systems, creating subtle but measurable vertical movements that demonstrate how even the atmosphere participates in the planet's breathing patterns. Seasonal atmospheric breathing follows the annual cycle of weather pattern changes, as the global distribution of high and low-pressure systems shifts with the seasons. During winter in the Northern Hemisphere, for example, The development of large, persistent high-pressure systems over continental areas creates increased atmospheric loading that causes a subtle subsidence of the underlying crust. The transition to summer weather patterns releases this loading, allowing the crust to rise slightly as atmospheric pressure patterns redistribute around the globe. The Earth's thermal breathing operates on even longer timescales, following cycles of heating and cooling that span decades, centuries, and millennia. Daily thermal cycles create microscopic expansion and contraction of surface rocks as they warm in the sun and cool during the night. These thermal breathing patterns penetrate only a few feet into solid rock, but they create regular stress cycles that accumulate over time and contribute to the gradual weathering and adjustment processes that shape the Earth's surface. Annual thermal cycles create deeper breathing patterns as seasonal temperature changes penetrate further into the Earth's crust, causing subsurface rocks to expand and contract with the rhythm of the seasons. These thermal adjustments happen so slowly that they're spread across months of gradual change. Yet they create measurable vertical motions as large areas of the crust respond collectively to the annual temperature cycle. Urban areas often show particularly clear seasonal breathing patterns, as the thermal mass of buildings and pavement creates enhanced heating and cooling cycles that amplify the natural thermal breathing of the underlying geology. Hydrologic breathing represents one of the most significant patterns in the Earth's long-term respiratory cycle, following the accumulation and release of water mass on the Earth's surface. The annual cycle of snow accumulation and melting in mountainous regions creates a regular breathing pattern as the weight of accumulated snow compresses the underlying crust during winter, followed by gradual rebound as the snow melts and the loading is removed during spring and summer. These seasonal loading cycles can cause vertical movements of several centimeters across large areas, creating some of the most dramatic examples of the Earth's breathing that can be measured with modern instruments. Glacial breathing operates on much longer timescales, following the accumulation and retreat of continental ice sheets over thousands and tens of thousands of years. During ice ages, the enormous weight of continental glaciers, ice sheets up to several miles thick covering areas the size of entire countries, creates profound compression of the underlying crust. This glacial loading causes the affected regions to subside by hundreds of feet as the crust adjusts to accommodate the enormous additional weight through slow, viscous flow in the underlying mantle. The breathing cycle associated with glacial loading and unloading demonstrates the Earth's remarkable ability to accommodate even the most extreme changes in surface loading through patient, gradual adjustment. When the ice sheets melt, the removal of this enormous weight allows the compressed crust to slowly rebound, rising back toward its original elevation through a process that can continue for thousands of years after the ice has disappeared. This post-glacial rebound is still occurring today in regions like northern Canada and Scandinavia, where the land continues to rise in response to the removal of ice-age glaciers that melted over 10,000 years ago. Tectonic breathing represents the longest and most fundamental rhythm in the Earth's respiratory cycle, following the accumulation and release of stress in the planetary crust over periods ranging from decades to millions of years. This breathing pattern results from the continuous but irregular nature of tectonic plate motion, as the slow, steady drive of mantle convection encounters the resistance of crustal structures that can temporarily lock and prevent smooth motion. During the stress accumulation phase of tectonic breathing, the driving forces of plate motion continue to operate, but their effects are temporarily stored as elastic strain in the crustal rocks rather than being immediately released through motion. This is like taking a deep breath and holding it. The energy input continues, but the release is temporarily delayed. Fault systems lock and become unable to slip smoothly, allowing stress to build up across wide areas of the crust as the underlying driving forces continue to operate. The stress accumulation phase of tectonic breathing can continue for decades, centuries, or even longer as the crustal rocks slowly deform under the increasing load. This deformation is so gradual that it's typically imperceptible without precise surveying instruments. It represents the storage of enormous amounts of elastic energy across vast areas of the Earth's crust. The accumulated stress creates subtle changes in the shape of the land surface, affects groundwater flow patterns, and can even influence the behavior of biological systems that are sensitive to minute changes in ground stability. The release phase of tectonic breathing occurs when the accumulated stress finally overcomes the strength of the locking mechanisms that have been preventing motion. This release doesn't typically happen all at once across the entire stressed region, but rather begins at the weakest points and propagates outward as the stress redistribution affects neighboring areas. The result is often a series of adjustments spread across months or years, as different parts of the system find new equilibrium positions and the overall stress pattern reorganizes. Most tectonic breathing cycles release their accumulated stress through networks of small, gradual adjustments rather than single large events. Fault systems that have been locked begin to creep slowly, releasing their stored energy through continuous motion that can continue for months or years. Areas of the crust that have been compressed begin to expand back toward their original dimensions. Rock formations that have been tilted or bent begin to recover their equilibrium orientations. These adjustment processes happen slowly and peacefully, representing the Earth's preferred method for maintaining tectonic equilibrium. The Earth's breathing patterns are interconnected across all time scales, creating complex rhythms that demonstrate the planet's remarkable ability to coordinate responses across vast scales of space and time. Tidal breathing influences daily stress patterns that can affect the timing of longer-term tectonic adjustments. Seasonal loading cycles can modify the stress patterns that accumulate during tectonic breathing cycles. Atmospheric pressure changes can trigger the release of accumulated stress in fault systems that are close to their adjustment threshold. This interconnection of breathing cycles creates opportunities for stress accumulated in one system to be released through adjustments in another system, providing multiple pathways for maintaining equilibrium and preventing the accumulation of dangerous stress concentrations. A fault system under tectonic stress might release some of its accumulated energy during a particularly strong tidal cycle. An area experiencing thermal stress from seasonal temperature changes might adjust through enhanced creep motion in nearby geological structures. The Earth's breathing also demonstrates the planet's remarkable sensitivity to external influences and its ability to maintain equilibrium despite constantly changing conditions. Changes in the Earth's orbital parameters, variations in solar energy output, modifications to atmospheric composition, and even the gravitational effects of other planets all contribute to the complex forcing functions that drive the planet's respiratory cycles. Yet despite this complex array of inputs, the Earth maintains stable breathing patterns that have operated consistently throughout geological history. Modern monitoring systems allow scientists to observe the Earth's breathing in real time, using networks of sensitive instruments that can detect vertical movements as small as millimeters and strain changes measured in parts per billion. These observations reveal breathing patterns of extraordinary regularity and beauty, showing how the solid Earth responds to forcing cycles with the same kind of rhythmic precision that characterizes biological respiratory systems. GPS monitoring stations around the world continuously track the vertical and horizontal movements associated with various breathing cycles, creating detailed records of how different regions respond to tidal forces, atmospheric loading, thermal changes, and tectonic processes. These measurements show that virtually every point on the Earth's surface is in constant gentle motion, rising and falling, expanding and contracting in response to the planet's complex breathing patterns. Seismic monitoring networks detect the subtle stress changes associated with breathing cycles, showing how the accumulation and release of stress affects the background seismicity patterns in different regions. During stress accumulation phases, the number of tiny adjustments typically decreases as the system becomes more locked and resistant to motion. During stress release phases, the frequency of small adjustments often increases as the system finds new equilibrium positions through countless minor rebalancing events. As you rest here in growing awareness of the Earth's breathing, you begin to understand that you're experiencing these respiratory cycles yourself through every point of contact between your body and the surfaces supporting you. The floor beneath you rises and falls slightly with tidal breathing. The building around you expands and contracts with thermal breathing. The entire region where you're located participates in seasonal and long-term breathing cycles that connect your immediate environment to geological processes operating across the entire planet. The remarkable thing about the Earth's breathing is how peaceful and regular it is despite the enormous forces involved and the vast scales on which it operates. Like the breathing of a sleeping giant, the planet's respiratory cycles follow patterns of extraordinary gentleness and consistency, maintaining the dynamic equilibrium necessary for geological stability while accommodating the countless changes that characterize a living, evolving world. In the Earth's breathing, you can sense the planet's fundamental wellness and its remarkable ability to maintain health through rhythmic cycles of stress and release that have operated continuously for billions of years. This planetary breathing creates the stable foundation that supports all surface processes, including the evolution and maintenance of life itself. The gentle, regular rhythm of the Earth's breathing provides a background of stability and predictability that allows complex systems to develop and flourish while the planet continues its slow geological evolution through countless cycles of patient adjustment and peaceful accommodation to changing conditions. As you rest in this deepening awareness of the Earth's gentle breathing and patient communications, you begin to understand that every whisper from the planet's interior becomes part of a vast conversation that echoes across time and space in ways that connect present moments to the deep history of our world. These echoes carry information not just about current conditions, but about events that occurred long ago and processes that will continue far into the future, creating a temporal tapestry where past, present, and future geological events are woven together through the medium of seismic waves and crustal memory. When the Earth speaks through its language of stones, sending waves through the solid matter of the planet's interior, these communications don't simply disappear after delivering their immediate messages. Instead, they become part of an ongoing conversation that reverberates through time, with each wave carrying information that can be detected, recorded, and interpreted long after the original event that created it. This creates a form of geological memory, where the planet preserves records of its own history in the patterns of wave propagation, structural deformation, and stress distribution that accumulate over vast periods of time. The waves themselves travel through the Earth with speeds that seem instantaneous from a human perspective, yet their journey through the planet's interior could take many minutes to complete, creating a natural time delay that allows different parts of the Earth system to coordinate their responses to changing conditions. A disturbance in one part of the world sends wave messages that arrive at distant locations with precise timing that depends on the path the waves traveled and the geological structures they encountered along the way. These traveling communications create opportunities for stress and information to be shared across enormous distances, allowing geological events in one region to influence conditions and processes thousands of miles away. The wave energy that propagates from any geological adjustment becomes part of the global stress field, subtly modifying pressure and strain conditions throughout the planet's crust and contributing to the complex patterns of force distribution that govern geological processes everywhere. The echoes of ancient geological events remain embedded in the Earth's current structure, creating a form of planetary memory that influences how the modern Earth responds to contemporary forces and stresses. Mountain ranges built during ancient collision events continue to affect regional stress patterns millions of years after their formation, as their deep-root structures and modified crustal properties create persistent influences on local geological processes. The structural grain created by ancient geological events, the orientation of rock layers, the distribution of different rock types, the location of ancient fault systems, continues to guide the development of new geological features and influence the paths that modern stress adjustments follow. Fault systems, in particular, serve as pathways that preserve and transmit information about ancient stress patterns while providing channels for contemporary adjustments. A fault that formed during an ancient geological event may remain dormant for millions of years, yet retain the potential to reactivate when stress conditions become favorable. These ancient fractures in the Earth's crust act like geological memory banks, preserving information about the forces that created them while remaining available as pathways for future adjustments when stress patterns align appropriately. The orientation and characteristics of these ancient fault systems reflect the stress conditions that existed when they were active, providing a record of how forces were distributed through the Earth's crust during different periods of geological history. Modern stress patterns interact with these inherited structures in complex ways, sometimes reactivating ancient faults and sometimes creating new fracture systems that follow different orientations better suited to contemporary force distributions. Sedimentary layers preserve even more detailed records of ancient geological communications, as each layer represents a snapshot of conditions that existed when it was deposited. The thickness of individual layers, their mineral composition, their structural characteristics, and their relationships to adjacent layers all contain information about the geological processes that were operating when the sediments accumulated. These sedimentary archives preserve evidence of ancient stress patterns, climate conditions, sea level changes, and volcanic activity that can be read like pages in an enormous geological book. The deformation patterns preserved in ancient rock formations provide direct evidence of the stress fields that operated during different periods of Earth's history. Folds, fractures, and other structural features record the directions and magnitudes of forces that acted on the crust during ancient geological events. These deformation patterns often show clear relationships to contemporary stress fields, revealing how ancient geological processes continue to influence modern geological behavior through the inherited structural framework they created. Underground water systems also preserve and transmit echoes of ancient geological events, as groundwater flow patterns are strongly influenced by the structural characteristics created by past geological processes. Ancient fault systems provide preferential pathways for groundwater movement, while the different permeabilities of various rock types create complex three-dimensional networks that control how water moves through the subsurface. Changes in groundwater flow patterns can reflect adjustments in these inherited structural controls, providing sensitive indicators of ongoing geological processes. The chemical composition of groundwater preserves information about the rock formations it has contacted during its underground journey, creating chemical signatures that reflect both the geological structures the water has passed through and the timing of its movement through different parts of the underground system. Long-term changes in groundwater chemistry can indicate modifications to underground flow systems that result from gradual geological adjustments occurring over decades or centuries. Modern seismic monitoring systems have revealed that the Earth communications create resonance patterns that can persist for hours or days after significant geological events, as wave energy becomes trapped in certain geological structures and continues to reverberate like sound echoes in a vast underground cathedral. These trapped waves gradually diminish in amplitude, but preserve information about the original event and the structures that contain them, creating opportunities to study both the source of the waves and the geological features that influence their propagation. The discovery of these persistent resonance patterns has revealed that the Earth's interior contains acoustic properties similar to musical instruments, with different geological structures capable of supporting different types of wave propagation and resonance. Deep sedimentary basins can act like enormous drums, supporting low-frequency vibrations that persist for extended periods. Mountain ranges can act like complex acoustic filters, modifying the frequency content of passing waves in ways that reflect their internal structure and composition. Global seismic monitoring networks now routinely detect waves that have traveled completely around the Earth multiple times, carrying information about their source events and all the geological structures they encountered during their planetary journey. These globe-circling waves create opportunities to study the Earth's deep interior structure by analyzing how wave properties change as they pass through different regions of the planet. The cumulative effects of multiple planetary transits can reveal subtle variations in deep Earth structure that would be impossible to detect from waves that traveled shorter distances. The timing relationships between waves that take different paths through the Earth provide information about the three-dimensional distribution of material properties throughout the planet's interior. Waves traveling through the Earth's core arrive at different times than waves traveling through the mantle, and these travel time differences reveal information about core composition, temperature, and physical state. Regional variations in wave arrival times indicate lateral variations in mantle structure that reflect ancient convection patterns and ongoing circulation processes. Long-term monitoring of seismic wave propagation has revealed that the Earth's internal structure is slowly but continuously evolving, with detectable changes in wave travel times that reflect ongoing processes like mantle convection, core circulation, and gradual adjustments in crustal structure. These temporal changes in seismic properties provide direct evidence that the Earth's interior remains dynamically active and continues to evolve in response to the fundamental physical processes that have operated throughout planetary history. The accumulation of seismic data over decades of global monitoring has created detailed three-dimensional images of the Earth's interior that reveal structures and processes operating on scales from local to global. These images show rising plumes of hot material in the mantle, descending sheets of cool material associated with subduction zones, and complex circulation patterns that connect surface geological features to deep interior processes. The resolution of these images continues to improve as more data accumulates and analysis techniques become more sophisticated. Modern analysis of historical seismic records has revealed patterns and cycles in geological activity that operate on timescales ranging from decades to centuries, suggesting that the Earth communications follow rhythms and periodicities that reflect fundamental planetary processes. Some regions show clear cycles in seismic activity that correlate with astronomical cycles, atmospheric loading patterns, or other external forcing mechanisms. Other regions show internal cycles that appear to reflect the natural timescales of local geological processes and stress accumulation patterns. The development of increasingly sensitive monitoring instruments has revealed that the Earth's background seismic activity follows daily, seasonal, and longer-term patterns that reflect the planet's response to various environmental forcing mechanisms. Urban areas show clear daily cycles related to human activity, while remote regions reveal natural cycles related to atmospheric pressure changes, thermal loading, and tidal forces. These patterns demonstrate the remarkable sensitivity of geological systems to environmental influences and the complex ways that different forcing mechanisms interact to create the observed patterns of geological activity. Statistical analysis of long-term seismic records has revealed that geological activity often shows clustering patterns, where periods of relative quiet are followed by periods of increased activity, suggesting that stress transfer and triggering mechanisms operate across multiple timescales and geographic regions. These clustering patterns appear to reflect the complex ways that geological systems interact, with events in one region influencing the probability of events in neighboring regions through stress transfer mechanisms and shared regional geological structures. The study of earthquake echoes has also revealed that individual geological events can trigger cascades of secondary adjustments that continue for months or years after the initial event, as the stress redistribution caused by the original adjustment propagates through regional geological systems and triggers additional adjustments in areas where stress conditions become favorable. These secondary effects demonstrate the interconnected nature of geological systems and the ways that local events can influence regional geological behavior through complex networks of stress transfer and structural interaction. As you rest here in growing awareness of these temporal echoes that connect geological events across vast spans of time, you begin to understand that the solid ground supporting you is not just a foundation for the present moment, but a repository of information about the Earth's entire history and a participant in communications that will continue far into the future. Every wave that passes through the rock beneath you carries information about distant events and contributes to the ongoing conversation between different parts of the planetary system. The echoes through time that characterize geological communications demonstrate the Earth's remarkable ability to maintain memory of its own history while remaining responsive to current conditions and adaptive to future changes. This temporal integration creates a planetary system that learns from its past, responds appropriately to present conditions, and maintains the flexibility necessary to adapt to future challenges. In the gentle persistence of geological echoes, the Earth demonstrates its mastery of time and its ability to coordinate responses across scales that encompass both the immediate moment and the vast expanses of geological history and future evolution. As evening settles around you and your awareness of the Earth's gentle communications deepens into something approaching meditation, you begin to perceive the planet's most intimate and soothing voice, a continuous lullaby of micro-vibrations and tiny movements that represents the Earth's constant, quiet conversation with itself. This planetary lullaby operates at frequencies and amplitudes so subtle they exist just below the threshold of normal human perception, yet they create a background of gentle motion that has been singing the Earth to sleep and waking it to new days for billions of years. The planet's lullaby begins with a constant microseismic background that results from countless tiny adjustments happening simultaneously throughout the Earth's crust. Every microscopic settling of rock grains, every minute thermal expansion and contraction, every subtle shift in underground water pressure contributes to a continuous chorus of vibrations so small they can only be detected by the most sensitive instruments. Yet so persistent they represent one of the most fundamental aspects of how the planet maintains its dynamic equilibrium. These micro-vibrations create a kind of geological white noise, a gentle, consistent background of movement that masks individual events while revealing the overall health and activity level of the planetary system. Like the sound of rain on a roof or waves lapping at a distant shore, the Earth's microseismic background creates a soothing acoustic environment that speaks of stability, continuity, and the peaceful persistence of natural processes operating according to their own patient rhythms. The ocean waves rolling onto coastlines around the world contribute their own voice to the planet's lullaby, creating a globally distributed percussion section that sends rhythmic pressure pulses through both the ocean floor and the adjacent continental margins. These ocean wave signatures can be detected thousands of miles inland, as the pressure variations created by breaking waves propagate through the solid Earth with the same patience and persistence that characterizes all geological communications. The twice-daily rhythm of ocean tides adds a deeper bass note to the planetary lullaby, as the gravitational dance between Earth, Moon, and Sun creates regular flexing patterns that affect the entire planetary crust. This tidal rhythm operates with the regularity of a cosmic metronome, providing a steady temporal framework that helps coordinate other geological processes and creates opportunities for stress release and adjustment that follow the reliable patterns of celestial mechanics. Wind systems moving across the Earth's surface add their own harmonics to the planetary lullaby, as atmospheric pressure variations and the loading effects of moving air masses create subtle but persistent influences on surface conditions. The passage of weather fronts, the development and dissipation of atmospheric pressure systems, and the seasonal migration of wind patterns all contribute vibrations and pressure changes that become part of the Earth's continuous acoustic environment. Urban areas contribute their own distinctive voices to the planetary lullaby through the collective effects of human activity. The vibrations from traffic, construction, industrial operations, and even the footsteps of people walking on sidewalks combine to create characteristic seismic signatures that can be detected by monitoring instruments. Rather than disrupting the natural lullaby, these human contributions typically blend harmoniously with the background of natural microvibrations, adding new frequencies and rhythms that reflect the integration of human civilization with the Earth's geological systems. The daily cycle of human activity creates clear patterns in the urban components of the planetary lullaby, with vibration levels rising during the day as cities wake up and beginning their daily activities, then falling during the night as activity decreases and people rest. This daily rhythm of human-generated vibrations has become a regular component of the Earth's acoustic environment in populated areas, creating new patterns that complement rather than conflict with the natural cycles of geological activity. Seasonal changes add longer-term variations to the planetary lullaby, as thermal cycling, precipitation patterns, and biological activity create annual rhythms in the microseismic background. The freezing and thawing of surface materials, the growth and dormancy cycles of vegetation, and the seasonal migration of surface water all contribute to variations in the Earth's acoustic environment that follow the familiar patterns of seasonal change while adding new layers of complexity to the ongoing geological conversation. The deep thermal circulation of the Earth's interior contributes its own subtle harmonics to the planetary lullaby through the effects of mantle convection on surface conditions. The slow rising and sinking of material in a mantle creates long-term variations in surface heat flow, volcanic activity, and crustal stress patterns that manifest as extremely low-frequency components of the Earth's seismic background. These deep rhythms operate on timescales so long that they're barely detectable even with long-term monitoring. Yet they represent the fundamental driving forces that power all geological processes. Modern seismic monitoring networks have revealed that the Earth's lullaby follows clear daily, weekly, and seasonal patterns that reflect the complex interactions between natural geological processes and human activities. The quietest times typically occur during weekend nights in local time zones, when both natural thermal cycles and human activity reach their minimum level simultaneously. The noisiest times often correspond to weekday afternoons, when thermal expansion effects combine with peak human activity to create maximum vibration levels. Global monitoring of the planetary lullaby has revealed fascinating correlations between seismic background levels and various environmental factors. Changes in atmospheric pressure associated with weather systems create measurable variations in microseismic activity levels. Seasonal changes in soil moisture content affect the transmission characteristics of surface materials, creating annual cycles in the apparent intensity of underground vibrations. Even changes in vegetation coverage can influence local seismic background levels by affecting how surface vibrations couple with underground structures. The COVID-19 pandemic provided an unprecedented opportunity to study the human contribution to the planetary lullaby, as widespread lockdowns dramatically reduced human activity in urban areas around the world. Seismic monitoring stations in major cities recorded significant decreases in background vibration levels during lockdown periods, revealing the extent to which human activities normally contribute to the Earth's acoustic environment. The gradual return of activity as restrictions were lifted could be tracked in real time through changes in seismic background levels. Long-term studies of the planetary lullaby have revealed subtle changes that may reflect larger-scale environmental trends and geological processes. Some monitoring stations show gradual increases in background vibration levels that may reflect increasing urbanization and industrial activity in their regions. Others show seasonal changes that appear to be shifting gradually over time, possibly reflecting climate change effects on precipitation patterns, soil moisture, and vegetation coverage. The study of microseismic backgrounds has also revealed that the Earth's lullaby serves important functions in maintaining geological system health. The continuous low-level vibrations help prevent the accumulation of stress concentrations by promoting gradual creep and adjustment in fault systems and other geological structures, like gentle massage that keeps muscles relaxed and flexible. The constant microvibrations help maintain the Earth's crustal systems in a state of dynamic equilibrium that prevents the development of dangerous stress accumulations. Regional variations in the planetary lullaby reflect differences in local geological conditions, creating distinctive acoustic signatures that characterize different geological environments. Areas with hard bedrock close to the surface tend to have different background vibration characteristics than regions with thick sedimentary deposits. Mountainous areas create different acoustic environments than coastal plains. Volcanic regions have their own distinctive seismic signatures that reflect ongoing magmatic processes. As you settle into the deepest awareness of this moment, surrounded by the Earth's gentle lullaby and cradled by the planet's patient breathing, you begin to understand that your peaceful rest is not separate from the geological processes that surround you, but rather an integral part of the same harmony that characterizes all natural systems when they operate according to their inherent patterns of balance and mutual support. In this growing recognition of connection and belonging, you discover that the Earth's communications have been guiding you toward the same state of peaceful equilibrium that governs all the planet's most fundamental processes. The solid surfaces supporting your body are not barriers that separate you from the Earth's geological systems, but rather interfaces that connect you directly to the planetary communication network. Every point of contact between your body and the surfaces around you becomes a channel through which you participate in the Earth's ongoing conversation with itself. The gentle pressure you feel from these supporting surfaces represents the same forces that create the tidal breathing of continents, the patient circulation of mantle currents, and the subtle pulse that maintains dynamic equilibrium throughout the entire planetary system. Your own breathing naturally synchronizes with the Earth's deeper rhythms as you rest in this growing awareness. The slow, gentle expansion and contraction of your lungs mirrors the tidal breathing of the planetary crust, the seasonal breathing of thermal cycles, and the vast respiratory patterns that operate on geological timescales. Your heartbeat becomes part of the Earth's pulse, adding its small but significant contribution to the continuous circulation of energy and information that connects all parts of the planetary system. The warmth of your body participates in the same thermal processes that drive mantle convection, create atmospheric circulation, and power the slow dance of tectonic plates. The heat you generate and release becomes part of the complex thermal exchange between the Earth's surface and its surroundings, contributing to the energy flows that maintain the planet's dynamic stability while enabling the continuous evolution that characterizes all living systems. Your presence here, in this moment of peaceful awareness, demonstrates the Earth's remarkable ability to create conditions that support consciousness, reflection, and the deep appreciation of natural beauty and harmony. The stable foundation that makes your rest possible, the protective atmosphere that sustains your breathing, the complex web of geological processes that maintains surface conditions suitable for life. All of these represent the Earth's gift of habitability, its creation of an environment where awareness and appreciation can emerge and flourish. The thoughts and feelings arising in your consciousness as you rest in connection with the Earth's processes become part of the planet's ongoing evolution toward greater complexity, awareness, and integration. Through your developing understanding of geological communications and your growing appreciation of planetary processes, you participate in the Earth's continuing journey toward higher levels of organization and more sophisticated forms of self-awareness. The peace you feel in this moment reflects the same harmony that characterizes all natural systems when they operate according to their inherent patterns of balance and cooperation. Your restful state demonstrates the same principles that govern the Earth's most fundamental processes, the patient persistence that accomplishes vast transformations through countless small adjustments, the dynamic stability that maintains overall patterns while allowing for continuous adaptation, and the integration of individual components into larger systems that exhibit emergent properties and capabilities. As sleep begins to settle over you like the Earth's own evening breathing cycle, you can release yourself completely into the supporting embrace of geological time and planetary process. Your individual rest becomes part of the Earth's larger rhythms of activity and quiet, your dreams joining the slow circulation of energy and information that connects all parts of the planetary system across all scales of space and time. The whispered conversations happening in the rock beneath you will continue throughout your sleep. The patient circulation of underground rivers will maintain their ancient patterns, and the gentle pulse of tidal breathing will persist in its reliable rhythm. These geological lullabies will continue their soothing songs while you rest, maintaining the stable foundation that makes peaceful sleep possible while participating in the Earth's ongoing conversation with itself. In the morning, when you wake, the Earth's communications will still be flowing through the same patient channels, still following the same gentle rhythms, still demonstrating the same remarkable integration of stability and change that has characterized planetary processes for billions of years. Your awakening will add your voice back to the conscious appreciation of these ongoing processes, but the processes themselves will have continued their patient work whether observed or not, whether appreciated or not, following the inherent patterns that govern all natural systems. The earthquake whispers you've learned to hear will remain available whenever you choose to listen with the same quiet attention you've discovered tonight. The Earth's gentle pulse will continue its reliable rhythm, ready to provide the same sense of connection and belonging whenever you remember to feel for it. The planetary lullaby will keep singing its soothing songs, offering the same peace and harmony whenever you're ready to rest in awareness of your participation in the Earth's ongoing conversation with itself. In the gentle embrace of geological time, in the patient persistence of planetary processes, in the reliable rhythms of the Earth's breathing and pulse, you can always find the same peace and belonging you've discovered tonight. The whispers will always be there. The conversations will always be continuing, and your place in the grand harmony of planetary life will always be secure. Rest now in the knowledge that you are held by forces of unimaginable patience and gentleness, supported by processes of extraordinary reliability and beauty, cradled by a planet that has been perfecting the art of dynamic stability for billions of years. Let the Earth's whispered lullabies guide you into the deepest, most peaceful sleep, knowing that you wake tomorrow not as a stranger on the planet's surface, but as a conscious participant in the ongoing conversation between the Earth and itself, a conversation that includes your every breath, your every heartbeat, your every moment of aware appreciation for the remarkable world that holds you in its gentle, enduring embrace. The earthquake whispers fade into dreams where continents dance with the patience of geological time, where underground rivers carry messages of peace across vast distances, and where the Earth's gentle breathing rocks you into the deepest rest, surrounded always by the harmony that connects all things in the endless, beautiful conversation between our planet and itself.